junior in high school, I was already an alcoholic. And so, believe it or not, drunk people do things that involve the civil authorities. And, so I'm not proud of that, but, that's what happens when you're stuck on stupid. And as I got in my early 20s, I was raised with having preachers in the home for dinner. It was just a common thing. And a lot of times, evangelists would come in town, hold revival, they'd stay at our house. Well, the evangelist comes for revival, guess what? I'm leaving for revival, all right? I'll come back home when the evangelist is gone. But Earl McKinney was the only preacher I liked. Earl didn't try to evangelize me in one shot. He just loved on a stupid kid. And I enjoyed just being around Earl. And an impact that Earl had on me before I was saved, I was looking at maybe taking a nice vacation, courtesy of the governor of Ohio, if you know what we're talking about here, all right? And I was a big boy. I paid for my own attorneys and all that kind of stuff. And showed up at a court date, and I walk in the courtroom, and who's sitting next to my attorney but Earl McKinney? I'm like, great, this is just what I need. And, said hi to him and all that kind of stuff. And it got to the sentencing phase, and the judge, the deck was stacked. Earl knew the judge. It was Claremont County. The judge said, anybody else in the courtroom have anything to say? And Earl raised his hand. I do, Your Honor. I said, oh, here we go. And I'm there. I got a braided ponytail down my back. It's hard to believe for a bald guy, right? And Earl said, this young man comes from a good family. He has good, brave parents. And I believe if you give him another chance, he'll straighten up. What has this dude been smoking? I have no intention on straightening up. I just don't want to go to prison, And anyway, things worked out. And what could have been a disaster ended up not being as bad. And afterwards, guess who was waiting in the hallway of the courthouse? Earl McKinney. He said, can we have a talk? I said, I guess that's the least I could do. And I saw a different side of that man. And he sat me down and he said, young man, God just did something for you today. And you need to sit up and take notice. Did I get saved then? Nope. Ended up getting saved the next year, though. And I didn't come to this church. But Earl kept on loving me. So, I found 2 churches, 2 counties away where nobody knew me or my baggage. And I got acquainted with Jesus. But then there came a time as I was growing in the Lord that it was time. And I came here on a Sunday and people loved me. And Earl saw something in me. And Earl invested a lot in me. He invested as much into me as he invested in anybody. One of the things that Earl McKinney taught me was how to go to jail and how to go to prison. Earl McKinney had an active prison ministry at the Lebanon Correctional Institute for over 20 years. Now, times were different then. And they looked as preachers as an asset. We live in a different atmosphere today. you deserved. Well, look at you. I told you this. They heard all that. They don't need me to go and tell them how bad they are. They already know how bad they are. They need somebody to love them. And just like Pastor Aaron was talking, the ministry of presence, it's so powerful. You just got to show up and let God speak through you. We go to the least of them because Jesus asked us to. But here's something that I've seen with these men and sometimes women. Many have never experienced the love of a father. Many have been abused as a child. Many have addiction problems. Many have mental illness. We go anyway because Jesus calls us to. Let me read you some things about how prevalent the problem is with men not having fathers. Because it's real. Now, what I said about men and sometimes women, I generally minister to men. All right? Brothers, we have to guard ourselves. I will make prison and jail ministry visits to women if it's somebody I know or a church member will ask me, but I don't go looking for trouble, all right? God called me to minister to men, and ladies can minister to women, but you have to have some safeguards and some protection. But if there's a direct need where I'm specifically being requested, or it's somebody I already have a connection with, I'll go. Does that make sense? We just have to protect ourselves. But listen to these statistics from the National Center for Fathering. 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes. 85% of all children who show behavior disorders come from fatherless homes, 20 times the average. 80% of rapists with anger problems come from fatherless homes. So we see a pattern here. 71% of all high school dropouts come from fatherless homes, 9 times the average. Fatherless children are twice as likely to drop out of school. Children with fathers who are involved are 40% less likely to repeat a grade in school. Children with fathers who are involved are 70% less likely to drop out of school. Children with fathers who are involved are more likely to get A's in school. Children with fathers who are involved are more likely to enjoy school and engage in extracurricular activities. 75% of all adolescent patients in chemical abuse centers come from fatherless homes. Do we see a pattern here? 28. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Want to know why that statue is so important to me? The night before I was to take my life in 1986, I stood in the darkness looking at that statue, thinking, wow, that sounds good, but God will never forgive me. I could use rest, but God will never save me. I knew in just a few days I was going to be in that cemetery. Little did I know, 37 years later, that cemetery would be a place where I would offer other people's comfort and hope. I got a call several years ago to go pray for a 4-year-old boy who had leukemia. You're thinking, what does this have to do with prison ministry? I'm getting to it. 4-year-old boy with leukemia. I married his parents. I was out one evening and got that call, knew I was going to have to go pray for this little boy the next day at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. Well, I drove in that cemetery. You know, cemeteries can be a great place to pray because nobody's going to bug you. All right? You can walk and you can pray. And I happened to be taking a walk through that cemetery, and I walked over by the statue. This is after many years of ministry. I'm an old guy, all right? I cry. I cry a lot. I got a tender heart. God's changed me from what I used to be. And I always, before I leave that cemetery, will walk and look at that statue. 20 yards from there, my best friend is buried. He got killed when we were 21. We were training for the Boston Marathon, and a guy on a motorcycle hit him. I was in the room with my best friend when they took him off the life support, and I didn't know Jesus. It was horrible. Cemetery, I've got a lot invested in that cemetery. But I walked up and I looked at the statue. I always look at the verse. I think about it. Wow, God's been so good to me because I know that rest. But it's a concrete statue. And time and weather and erosion has taken its toll on that statue. I don't know how long it's been there. At least 4 years. And you know what I noticed on the statue? Jesus didn't have any hands anymore. The weather had got him. And that statue had Jesus with his arms out with no hands. Okay, it's a statue of Jesus with no hands. And I looked at that and I cried. Jesus, it's a statue, right? Why am I crying? But I heard God speak to me. Will you be my hands? Will you be my hands? And since that day, I've looked at ministry as far as prisons, jails, hospitals. If I'm going to be the hands and feet of Jesus, and if I'm taking my time to drive 2 hours to a prison, they don't build prisons in your neighborhood, all right? They're a hassle to get to. If I'm taking my time 2 hours to drive to a prison, if you're taking your time an hour to drive to a hospital somewhere in the name of Jesus, if you're taking your time to go to a nursing home or a hospice, I just feel like the Lord and us have this arrangement that if we're going to make the effort to go, He's going to make the effort to chapter 10. And everybody there is not going to appreciate your ministry. But you've been sent. Because there's somebody behind that wall that needs what you have to say. And most times they have never experienced the love of a father. And you get to go and be the mouth and the hands and the feet of a father who loves them. Earl used to tell me all the time, I've never asked any inmate what they were there for. Well, we have the internet now. I can go online and I can see what they're there for, all right? I know why they're there. It's not too hard to look up. I don't care what they're there for. I don't care if they're guilty as the day is long. I'm there to love them. I'm not there to argue theology. I'm not there to figure out whether we're a Calvinist or an Arminian. Yes, I'm both. I'm all of them. I'm there to preach Christ crucified. And the gospel is powerful. And I have something to say. So let's get to it here. You ready? We're called to minister to the least of these. Secondly, we need to be wise. Because as Matthew chapter 10 says, we're like sheep among wolves, and we're called to be as wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. So let me talk about prison ministry first. Because prison ministry and jail ministry are two different birds. Prison ministry, now everybody's not from Ohio. You just can't show up at a prison to go see somebody. They will look at you like you're stupid. And have a nice day, go home. Right? To visit an inmate in Ohio, you have to be on their list, listed as their pastor or their chaplain. An inmate can do that. All right? They can list you. So there has to visit somebody in prison in Ohio. You have to already have some type of connection some way. You just can't show up. Now, I figured I was young in prison ministry, right? So why not just start at the top? I would go to Lucasville once a month. Lucasville, for you who don't know, is Supermax. It's where the electric chair was in Ohio. Right? They don't send you to Lucasville for missing Sunday school. You get sent to Lucasville because you shot somebody, you stabbed somebody, or you hurt somebody really bad, or you robbed the bank with a gun and pointed it. Okay? You don't get sent to Lucasville because you got your first DUI. Right? Not nice people are at Lucasville. And I'll never forget the first couple times I went to visit Lucasville. I noticed this real quick. The COs, the corrections officers, thank God for people to do that. We have to have orders in society. But I'm just being real here, all right? I'm the mayor of Realville. The only difference between the inmates and the COs, where they had a uniform and the inmates had a different uniform. One was just as bad as the other. Guys, there is a real drug problem in prisons. Do you think it just fell off a balloon somewhere? It's getting in there somehow. But I'm there to minister. You have to follow the rules, and there's a protocol. And they screen you very tightly going into prison. All right? Again, these COs need Jesus too. So not only do I get to minister to an inmate that I'm going to see, I get to show these COs the love of God. They all don't want to receive that. I got strip searched once at Lucasville. Just because the COs didn't like me. For whatever reason, I'm a nice person. Now, I can get mouthy with them over that, Prison is a dangerous place. You know what I would make? A lovely hostage. I'm just being real, all right? Do I love that guy enough to be willing to let him walk me across a prison yard? If I wanted to go talk to him that day, guess what I was going to have to do? They're going to have to walk me across that prison yard to get to him. They leave you waiting in this corridor because a different CO has to come with different keys. They have keys for everything. And a lot of stuff is automatic and computerized, but they still have keys. You have to wait for a CO to come and get you to walk across the yard. Did I mention that a lot of the COs have bad attitudes? They don't care when they come and get you. And sometimes they would leave me in that hallway for a half hour. When you've got inmates on laundry duty with these big tubs and stuff coming up and mail duty, they could stuff me in one of those tubs and I would be gone. One day they left me waiting for like a half hour. And you know the CO they sent to walk me across the yard? This little brunette about 5 foot tall. I'm like, really? You're going to walk me across the prison yard? Now we're there because we love Jesus, right? And we all have a good attitude. And we all have the best attitude in the world, right? I was about fed up after waiting 30 minutes. And this little girl comes to walk me across the yard. Halfway across the yard. I'm sorry, I did it. I said, you want to give me that stick? You're not going to be of very much help to me. That did not make her very happy, all right? Guys, these things are going to happen. You're going to get your hands dirty. But I'm telling you, the rewards are worth it. Why? Because Jesus asks us to go. Jesus asks us to go. So we go. All right? So, every state is different, but there's a proper protocol for doing prison ministry. All right? Most prison ministry is one-on-one. Yeah, there are sometimes guys can get in to do services. You really have to get connected with the warden at that particular facility. And that comes over a period of time, a long time. All right? Is that fair? All right, let's talk about jail ministry. Completely different situation, county lockups. I live in Ohio. Some of you guys live in Kentucky. Some of you guys live in Indiana. It's different, all right? In Ohio, you have 88 counties and you have 88 same Holy Spirit, wise as serpents, harmless as doves. All right? Remember, everything you say and do in that jail is being recorded. All right? I promise you, if you do this long enough, inmates will try to manipulate you. Keep it on task. You have a job. All right? You have a job. Some of them are going to try to play you. You have a job. And you can figure that out after a couple visits. All right? We're men of God. We're women of God. We have discernment. But can I tell you, I've seen God do incredible things in jails. Through the ministry of Teen Challenge, I get a lot of calls to go visit people. We will get guys that come to the ranch. Let me tell you a little bit about the ranch. It's not a drug rehab. It's a Christian men's discipleship program who deals with drugs and alcoholics, all right? And other life-controlling issues. What separates the Teen Challenge from maybe secular programs is that we don't treat their addiction. The addiction is just a symptom of something that's broken on the inside. They need the gospel of Jesus Christ, right? They need healing. They need to be made whole. So we're going after their hearts. And if we can get them in right relationship with Jesus, and we can get them on the right path, those addictions will follow. Those addictions will become powerless. Does that make sense? I'm preaching to the choir, right? Sometimes we will get guys there, paroled there from prison, and they have to stay. If they walk away, I have to report. I have to call the county sheriff. Hey, we gotta walk away. Most guys are there because they want to be, but sometimes we'll get them there from prison. Or a judge might send them to us instead of prison. But another thing, talking about how we're always representing Jesus to these COs, to these wardens, to these sheriffs. If you keep doing this for long enough, they will remember the Jesus who lives inside of you. All right? And sometimes those sheriffs, those police officers, those probation officers, they will call you. Hey, could you go visit somebody? And that's an honor. Not long ago, I had a Miami Township police officer who had one of my former students from Teen Challenge who got a little trouble, right? But because I'd made so many visits and been consistent, and they'd seen how I conducted myself. Guys, this doesn't happen in America today. But I had a man under arrest in a police station, and the police officer called me on my cell phone. Do you know so-and-so? Yeah. I've got him. Do you want him? Yeah, I want him. Come and get him. You get here within an hour, you can have him, and I won't take him to jail. That comes over time. That doesn't happen. That does not happen. That does not happen. That comes from being consistent. And even when COs and police officers push your buttons, remember who you're working for. Remember who you're working for, right? If they're there long enough and we minister to them, guess what we have the privilege of doing? Equipping them. They've got a whole mission field. And they've got time on their hands. Right? So if we can minister to them, and in county jail, I'll give them homework. They got time, right? And I'm a school teacher too, so I'm used to giving homework. I will give them things to read. Paul's epistles that were written from jail, in lockup. I can't get in there. I can see one at a time. They can get 5 or 6 in a day. I've seen them start Bible studies. Is that God redeeming the situation? One opportunity you have with getting involved in county jail ministry is county jail ministry will allow you the opportunity to go in there and preach. All right? They will allow you access. All right? But you don't have to reinvent the wheel. A lot of times there might already be a ministry in there. So instead of reinventing the wheel, find out through the chaplain who's already in there. I promise you, they are always looking for volunteers. So instead of reinventing the wheel, partner up with another ministry that's already in there. Your gift will make room for you. Free advice, all right? Free advice. You don't have to reinvent the. You don't have to start this from scratch. Somebody's probably already in there. My dear friend that I love, Wayne Eisen, I love that man. They have an incredible ministry in this church on Thursday nights that deals with addicts called Better Days Ministry. That was birthed out of somebody going to visit a county jail and having services for addicts in the jail. Can you believe there's drug addicts in the jail? Oh yeah, there is. Right? What a better place to go reach them and love them. They get out of jail and start coming to Brother Ison's church on Thursday night for the Better Days meeting, because they already met all these guys in lockup. Another place to get started that's overlooked, besides prison and county jail, is juvenile detention facilities. There are people I know in Claremont County that would love to have volunteers. And I'm sure it's the same way where you live. Again, not reinventing the wheel. There's probably already ministries in there. You just need to find out who they are and partner with them and offer to go help. God will use that in a huge way. God will use that in a huge, huge way. Let me talk about time. In the Bible, there's 2 Greek words in the New Testament that are used for time. We've read verses, right? The acceptable time, the now time. I'm a high school track and cross-country coach. The stopwatch doesn't lie. Right? Don't tell me you're fast, show me you're fast, all right? That's chronos. That's the Greek word chronos, like a chronograph. Chronos time. We have 24 hours in a day, right? 60 seconds in a minute. 365 days. That's chronos. But then in the Greek, there's something called kairos. A God moment. Never underestimate the power of your prayers when you are in ministry. Because you've all got more stories than I do of how God has allowed you to be in the right place at the right time. Practical freebie, if you're doing county ministry, ask this question. When is chow time? You don't want to go visit and waste your time and their time if it's dinner time. Find out what time they feed these guys and gals. That's a bad time to go visit. Alright? Don't go at chow time. Go early in the afternoon. Evenings are tough sometimes because they have family visits 2 days a week, generally. And was out. They'd taken her, I think, on a hospital visit or something. I'm going to have to come back tomorrow, so I'll just go see this guy downtown tomorrow, right? But I plan on seeing him on Thursday, right? But there's a Kairos, a God time. Was I thrilled about having to go see this guy? No, I'm still thinking, well, why didn't you go see him? But God. Are you ready for the rest of the story? I go down to see this Brittany girl on Friday. Then I drive a couple miles downtown in a park. And I'm walking up to the Justice Center. And I'm praying. I've never met this guy. There was a connection why they called me. I'm like, I gotta meet this guy. It's a Friday afternoon. It's probably around chow time. I'm like, the deputy's gonna be real happy with me today. I go in. They give me an isolated area to see this guy. They bring him out, and sure enough, Charles Manson in the flesh. All right, here comes this guy. He's got hair and he's got some beard. I introduced myself. Told him who I was. Hey, I'm Pastor Steve. I'm here to... This guy was big enough to break me in half, right? The guy starts crying and bawling and sobbing. And before he asked me anything, can you tell me how to get saved? I'm like, talk about easy pickings. If I would have been there the day before, he wasn't ready. Somebody dropped the Bible by his cell the night before. And he stayed up all night, just him and the Lord reading. And he read, and he read, and he read. And so I didn't have to tell him anything, who even sent me. I didn't. God, am I that good? No. But and this big guy that was scary and intimidating, being held for trying to kill 3 people, wept his way to Jesus. And I prayed for him. And I told him I'd be back. The charges got dropped. He's out on the street. He's serving Jesus. Got married. And he's got a little baby boy. That's why you do jail ministry. That's why you do jail ministry. I'm not big enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not qualified enough. See, now he goes into